Good morning, everybody. I'd like to call this meeting of Annapolis County Council to order. Before we begin with our formal agenda, I just wanted to say a couple of words about what took place further north of us in the province over the last couple of days. Like most of you, I've spent a lot of time over the last 2 days watching the news. We're heartbroken for the victims and the families of the victims who've been affected by this tragedy. It's almost inconceivable that in the midst of a global crisis like the one that we're dealing with, that somebody would choose to inflict such pain upon individuals and families in an entire community. And I just wanted to express that the council and staff and the residents of Annapolis County stand shoulder to shoulder with the people who've been affected by this tragedy. We care about you, and for every one person who does a monstrous act, you need 10,000 kind, compassionate people to hold each other and look after each other. And I wonder if, Council, if you would join me in a moment of silence for the victims. Thank you very much. All right, we'll begin with our roll call. I'll call out your district number and I'll ask if you respond with your name. District 1. Thank you. District 2.
McDonald.
Thank you. District 3.
Wayne Fowler.
District 4.
Bert McNeil.
District 5. Is Gregory's there? There he is. District 6.
Like Morrison.
District 7 is myself, Timothy Habinski. District 8.
Michael Gunn.
District 9.
Wendy Sheridan.
District 10. I can see you. All right. District 11.
Diana Blanc.
Thank you very much. Could I have a motion to approve our agenda, please?
So moved.
Thank you very much. Seconder for the motion?
Second.
So that was moved by Councillor LeBlanc, seconded by Councillor Fowler. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion's carried. Thank you very much. Just a quick note about the agenda. You will see that today we're working through quite a backlog of minutes that need to be approved and of resolutions that have been recommended to council by committee of the whole. And of course, committee of the whole consists of the entirety of council. So these were things that were the intention of council. And they've all been on hold because we haven't had an opportunity to actually ratify those resolutions in a formal meeting of council. So we're working through that backlog, but we're attempting to keep our agendas as streamlined as we possibly can, partly because of how challenging it can be to actually make everything work with a Zoom meeting in this sort of a format. As you saw from our last meeting, it takes much longer to work your way through even a fairly modest agenda. So our intention is that there's a number of things that we would classify as less urgent, which are all being collected. None of it's going to be lost. When we finally are in a position to be meeting in person again, we'll work through the backlog of a lot of those non-urgent matters. But for right now, we're only going to be dealing in council with things that are particularly time sensitive, things that are connected to community safety, and things that are, for one reason or other, fairly urgent. So that's just and for that reason, we've removed even things like the solicitors' reports and the councillors' roundtable. We just want to keep this as efficient as we possibly can for right now. We have a number of sets of minutes to be approved. I'm going to ask for a motion to approve the minutes to the special session from October the 11th of 2019.
So moved.
Moved by Councillor McNeil and seconded by Councillor McDonald. Any errors or omissions that you noticed in those minutes? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. Next, we have our minutes from our regular session from February the 18th. Can I have a motion to receive those minutes?
I'll move.
Moved by Councillor Sheridan and seconded by Councillor LeBlanc. Any errors or omissions that you noted in those minutes? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you. Next, our special session from the 3rd of, from March the 12th. The motion to approve those minutes.
McNeil.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor McNeil and seconded by Councillor Gunn. Any errors or omissions in that set of minutes? None. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. Okay, next we have the part B of that same set of minutes for that day. Could I have a motion to approve those minutes?
McDonald.
Moved by Councillor McDonald, seconded by the Deputy Warden. Any errors or omissions? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. Next, from our special session from March the 17th. Could I have a motion to approve those minutes? Moved by the Deputy Warden and seconded by
McNeil.
second by Councillor McNeil. Any errors or omissions that you noted in those minutes? All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. And next for March the 18th, could I have a motion to approve those minutes? Moved by
McNeil.
Councillor Gunn and seconded by Councillor Sheridan. Any errors or omissions? All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. Now, March the 29th. Could I have a motion to approve the minutes?
McNeil. McDonald.
Moved by Councillor McNeil and seconded by Councillor McDonald. Any errors or omissions? All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. Next for April the 1st. Could I have a motion to approve the minutes? Moved by Councillor Gunn, seconded by Councillor Morrison. All in favor of the motion? Oh, any errors or omissions? All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. And finally, our special session from April the 2nd. We have a motion to approve the minutes. Moved by Councillor Hemming, seconded by Councillor Sheridan. Any errors or omissions? All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. The next item that we have before us is an in-camera session, and it just occurred to me as I was looking through the invitation letter that we had for today that we don't have our call-in information for a conference call for our in-camera. So perhaps what we should do, why don't we move the in-camera to the end of our, oh, Carolyn, yes?
So I was not made aware if there was an in-camera. I don't know if there is.
John, I believe we have one item to be discussed in camera, section 22.2E. No, it's F, litigation or potential litigation.
I did have a discussion with the CEO regarding the conference call portion the last time.
Yes?
You cannot see who is participating on the call. And if you do it in Zoom, at least the recording is turned off and you can still have the participants in front of you. So I don't know how you wish to proceed on that. I did not have the conference call in information for this because I didn't know if there was an item.
I believe the critical issue with Zoom and the reason that the government of Canada has required their departments not to use Zoom for confidential meetings is that some of the information that's recorded by Zoom is stored in servers that aren't in Canada. And for that reason, we can't use Zoom for a confidential session. If we're actually, we can't use it for a confidential session, I don't think at all, even though we're not recording. So that's I think we have to use a conference call instead. What are your thoughts, John?
Carolyn, if you just perhaps emailed the councillors the call-in and ID number, I think it's fairly well consistent, the number. You can send it out, and once she has it, then we can go into the in-camera.
Okay. Well, how about we...
It's the same as last week.
Right.
And the ID. Does everybody have it?
No,
I do.
I do.
I will,
Send the email.
I'll send it again. You just got to give me a minute.
If you would, that would be very helpful. Thank you.
This is my pencil.
Based on the participants here, my understanding is that there would be no more than 19 people on this call, correct?
That's correct. Let's see.
So we're going there now, rather
Yeah,
than.
we will in just a moment. Just making sure that everybody has the email first. Has it been sent, Carolyn? You can just nod. No, it's not been sent yet. Okay.
I got it. If you're in your inbox, it's the 4th, Monday the 4th.
Thank you.
I've got it. I found it.
Can John A. give us the call-in and password
No,
here?
no, that defeats the purpose, Carolyn.
Okay, you'll have to give me a minute then.
Sure, no problem. That's fine. Actually, John, if you could email that to the council, if you could forward that again to council.
I can.
I think
Did you say it was the 4th?
Correct. Monday the 4th at 9:58. Just the council, Timothy, or here it is, executive management, John Ferguson, Wanda, and Janice. That would do it, right?
that should do it.
Join the conference. Please stand by. Le président n'a pas encore accédé à la conférence. Veuillez patienter.
Okay.
There, I've sent it. It should show up right away.
I think there's something wrong with Martha's sound. I can't hear. I know she tried to talk a couple times and I couldn't hear her. Can anybody else hear her?
Okay. Thank you for that. Thank you for that, John. So I've just received that email from John. If you folks all have that, what I'll request in that case at this point a motion to go in camera under the MGA section 22(2)(f), which is litigation or potential litigation. Moved by Councillor Sheridan and seconded by Councillor Fowler. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. Thank you very much. So, Carolyn, you can stop recording at this point. And what? Just wait for it to turn on. All right, I'd like to welcome you back to our meeting of council. We have 3 items of new business to attend to today. The first of which is the Tupperville School Museum Society is applying for an accessibility grant, and that grant process requires a letter of support from the municipality, and they're asking if we could provide them one. Carolyn?
I did not ever receive a copy of their grant application. We had asked for that.
Okay, then it still hasn't come in. So in that case, I guess the thing to do would be to defer this until we're able to get that application in, because as per our policy, we don't provide letters of support if we haven't seen the application.
Correct.
All right. Could I have a motion to defer this and to contact the society and request once again that they provide us with the application?
So moved.
Moved by Councillor LeBlanc, seconded by the Deputy Warden. Discussion on the motion. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. Thank you. Next, we had scheduled a minimum planning standards workshop, which is going to have to be deferred, of course, because of the requirement for social distancing. Could I have a motion to defer that pending an alteration in the province's directives on social distancing? Moved by Councillor Carolyn, yes?
This was a notice of motion given by Councillor, and he had a prepared motion for this.
Oh, he did? I'm sorry. Councillor Fowler, if you would.
He gave notice of motion at March Committee of the Whole for March Council. Councillor Fowler, do you have that? I didn't put the wording in front of me. I think he's, and you're on mute, Councillor Fowler. You're on mute, Councillor Fowler, if you were just speaking there.
Can you unmute him, Carolyn? There we go. Okay, Councillor Fowler, floor is yours.
Yeah, I had made a motion, and the motion was actually for March cancel, but anyway, it was to defer the minimum required plan and stand workshop until January 2021 to set a new workshop date to give the communities more time to realize what the land use planning was about. And anyway, also for the new council have input into the workshop.
Thank you, Councillor Fowler. Is there a seconder for the motion? Seconded by Councillor Gunn. Discussion on the motion. Councillor Hemming. Councillor Hemming, I can't hear you. Maybe you have the same volume issue that the Deputy Warden did. Try unplugging your earphones and see if we can hear you that way. Try that now. No, still can't hear you, unfortunately. Well, while you try to sort that, are there any other comments or questions?
Gregory, why don't you call in on your phone?
Sorry, folks. I know that the technology is frustrating. Okay.
Oh, gee. That was loud.
That's right. Hang on. I'm going to call Councillor Hemming and relay his comments. Hi, Gregory.
I have no idea why you can't hear me. My system says it's fine. I'm unmuted. So you hear me now?
Oh, I can hear you through my phone anyway. Yes, folks, can you hear Councillor Hemming?
No.
Not at all. I'm not sure where the microphone actually is in this computer. All right, we'll do your best, Councillor Hemming. Oh, I can hear on the computer now.
I think you just got to turn volume up.
All right.
Gregory, put the phone to your ear because I don't think it's on speaker, so it'll pick up your voice better if it's.
What? Can you hear me?
Yeah, that's better.
That's better.
Better.
Okay. Well, my question question was, I'm not quite sure why the January date as opposed to a date. Has the province postponed everything at this point?
The province hasn't provided any message about delaying the requirements for minimum planning standards. That there hasn't been any communication on that. There may well be. I think it's likely, but it hasn't come yet.
Right. That was my concern. I would oppose it. I would wait until the province move forward unless the province puts it on hold or something. We're just postponing the inevitable here. So I'm not going to support that. I'm not going to support that motion.
Okay, thank you. Any further comments, folks?
McDonald.
Councillor McDonald, please go right ahead.
I kind of like where where Councillor Hemming is going with this. I would, I don't know when the state of emergency will end, but if it does certainly go to Christmas or January, then Mr. Fowler's date is appropriate. But if it ends in 2 months, maybe we could have a workshop before that time. I don't mind his motion. I'm just concerned about the timing. I think it should be shortly after the lifting of the state of emergency. I think we should be able to have a workshop at that time.
Thank you very much. Councillor Sheridan, then Councillor Fowler, and then Councillor LeBlanc.
So I'm in this same, I think the same way in regards to that, because the province had a deadline on that. And we have to, if we have to meet that deadline, we'll have to wait to see what they have to say first and then go from there. That would be my view on it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor LeBlanc. Oh, Councillor Fowler, sorry.
The communities haven't been fairly warned about this. It hasn't been out in the community. There's no talk about it, what have you over here. And anyway, I'm willing to call everybody in the community if I have to, let them know that land use planning is coming forth. And also the province, they want it, they should be paying a share of it, and we should know what's being paid before we go ahead and get it going.
Thank you. Councillor LeBlanc.
And I have to agree with the fact that we are in a state of emergency. However, we do not, we can't postpone it in case it is lifted. So I think that we can't put a date as far as that is. But as for Councillor Fowler's request of people not knowing, maybe what we could do is send out a bulletin or put something in on our webpage that this is coming up or whatever the case may be, so that it's loud and clear, or on Facebook and every other avenue there is, and try to send it through that this is coming down the pipe, but it's just been postponed now because we can't meet. So that's my opinion. I don't think that I can favor that motion just because of that. We need to follow what the province has given us.
Thank you. Councillor Sheridan.
So this is something that's mandatory from the province. We don't have too much say in it, so it will have to come forth. So I think we should wait. I won't support this motion. I think we should wait until we see what the province is going to do. They'll be, I'm sure, understanding with the crises that we're in right now. So I'll just leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you. Deputy Warden.
And I agree with Councillor Fowler's motion. I think it should have an amendment until the COVID-19 is over and the province gives us a go-ahead to have community meetings.
Okay. Councillor Fowler.
Yeah, and another thing is, I do not work for the province. I'm working from District 3, Municipality of County of Annapolis. And anyway, I think the citizens have the right to know what is going on before this is carried forward.
Thank you. Councillor Hemming.
Yeah, if I could say, if we don't participate in this, we're going to have zoning anyway. the province will zone it with minimum planning standards. My responsibility is to help shape that for Annapolis County. So I think we have to be proactive in doing it. All those things about public meetings, all that needs to be worked out, with our council on how we meet those deadlines once we set those up. But I don't think there is an option not to do this. So when the province, if the province gives us a deadline, my guess is they'll probably extend that beyond 2021, and we'll know that. But I think we have to meet their schedule, or they're going to zone it for us, and I don't. That doesn't excite me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Gunn.
Thank you. I think can't we send a letter to the minister and ask them to extend that time frame? They've shut us down effectively, and it's going to be, they've shut us down for 6 months. So that time frame should be extended. And I think a lot, this could be just, I don't know what the term is, to another meeting to talk about again when the province opens back up, and then we can set a time frame. If they open it up in 2 weeks, we might need to have that meeting sooner. But if they keep this on in an extended time, I think the province, I would expect the province at least to extend their deadlines that they have on some things ahead. They've certainly shut down a lot of the environmental standards and the rest of the province due to this to keep things going. So I think they should extend that deadline as well.
Thank you very much. Councillor Fowler.
My last comment is that people take heed on their land, love their land. They seem as though they have the right to do whatever they could have as in the past. And they wouldn't be very happy with restrictions on the land.
Thank you, Councillor Fowler. It seems to me there's two different things that are sort of conflated a little bit here. One is the notion, of course, of delaying a workshop until the COVID-19 restrictions are lifted, and we actually already have a resolution of council that we've cancelled all meetings pending the lifting of those restrictions. So I think that would already be covered off. So I don't think we would need a fresh motion for that. So what's really at issue here with Councillor Fowler's suggested motion is whether or not the actual task of implementing the minimum planning standard should be pushed further back on the calendar because there's some sort of a discussion that we want to have with our community or some sort of consensus to be built. But my feelings here line up pretty closely with Councillor Sheridan and Councillor Hemming that this is an inevitability. We've been given this as an instruction. The province will almost certainly adjust their timeline, but not looking at it doesn't mean that the deadline goes any further away. I think we're required to do this. And in fact, they've described fairly hefty penalties for municipalities that don't meet the requirements. So I wouldn't be in favor of deferring past what's necessary in order to keep people safe during COVID-19. I would want to be able to proceed with this with fairly good speed because I want to protect the municipality from the potential penalties that would apply if we miss the deadlines. Councillor LeBlanc?
So what I'm thinking is possibly, what if we sent the proper authorities that, we can't proceed because of COVID. They all know this, and hopefully they might be able to give a letter stating, no, we've put this on the back burner and the dates will change. Maybe something to that effect so that they know where we're sitting and we're trying to keep ahead, but we're getting behind, but they all know that. However, maybe just a letter, just stating where we're at. That's just a suggestion.
I'm fairly certain that NSFM is having conversations with the province about this because, of course, the minimum planning standards were negotiated quite extensively between NSFM and even ANANS was involved as well. I'm fairly certain they're having that conversation. The simplest option might be to simply contact Pam Mood and ask her where that conversation is and what her sense is of how the province might be adjusting their timelines.
That's certainly a good suggestion, yes.
Does that work? Councillor Gunn?
We can't send Minister Porter a letter on behalf of Annapolis County. We have to go through NSFN.
No, we
Why can't we send?
We
Well,
can.
Mike,
We absolutely
Mike-
can. Yeah, we can
That's
do
what
that.
I would solicit is
Okay.
a letter from Annapolis County suggesting to the province that it would be good of them to think of this, of moving this on because of COVID. They extended, well, they've sort of shut us down. So it's hard to operate a franchise when you shut it down. So
Fair enough.
on the other end, they've got to lengthen that time out. And Annapolis County should be able to craft, I mean, we got some great words,
Sure.
craft a letter and send it off.
Oh yes, absolutely. We can certainly do that. I was just suggesting that it's likely that conversation's already taking place. But we can certainly send a letter. That doesn't hurt anything at all. Is there any further discussion on the motion that's before us, folks? Councillor Fowler, a last word?
Just the last word, yes. Transparency is my main thing for the communities.
Thank you. All right. Well, if there's no further discussion, then all in favor of the Carolyn, could you read the motion out for us one more time?
Carolyn has a problem.
Oh, Carolyn has an issue?
Yes.
No, it was trying to find my unmute button. Just a moment.
Ah.
It was moved by Councillor Fowler, seconded by Councillor Gunn, to defer the minimum required planning standards workshop until January 2021 to set a new workshop date and give communities notice of setting zoning standards for Annapolis County landowners, countywide, and to let the new council have input into the workshop.
Okay. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Nay.
Nay.
The motion is defeated. Thank you very much. If somebody would like to have a letter sent to the province, I'd entertain a motion on that. Moved by,
That motion.
I'll
moved
make
by,
that motion.
moved by Councillor Gunn and seconded by Councillor LeBlanc to send a letter to the province asking them to give consideration to delaying the timelines on the implementation of the minimum planning standards. All right, further discussion on that motion?
Just one point. Bert's muted, so he's not, and where he's not video recognizable, he's only on his phone. He should perhaps, we don't know what,
Unmute.
yeah.
Right, thank you.
Bert's,
Maybe Carolyn could unmute him. I'm not sure how easy it is to do from. Let's see.
Bert, can you hear it?
There.
Okay, thank you, God. I've been trying to get my 2 cents worth in there. All I wanted to say was to Wayne's motion and Wayne's concern about us telling the landowners in his areas what they can and can't do with their land. I don't think by law we can do it. And I kind of agree with them in putting this off, but I also agree with sending a letter to the ministers too. But I don't think by law we can tell a landowner what to do with their land. If I'm wrong, somebody tell me.
So the motion's on the floor to send the letter to the province. Further discussion on the letter?
McDonald.
Councillor McDonald?
Yeah, I don't, you reminded us, Mr. Warden, that we're not allowed to have anything like a workshop or meetings as such, nor are we allowed to have public meetings. I don't think we need a lead to send a letter or anything. There's nothing more we could do on this topic until the state of emergency has been lifted and we're allowed to meet again. And let's just move on and see what happens at that time.
All right. Councillor Morrison?
I agree with Councillor McDonald. It is not necessary, nor in many ways is it desirable to send a letter to the province about this. Thank you.
Further discussion? All in favor of the motions? Oh, Councillor Liddell?
Wouldn't a letter just be to say that because of COVID-19, we are at a state that we can't move forwards with this. So is every other municipality. It's not a, so if you have any, it's like a kind of question, if you see this as a problem, could you let us know? Or are there any directives we should be following? It's not kind of a negative letter or
No.
whatever, but if you know, it might be a questionable letter. I'm not quite sure. Thank you.
Councillor Sheridan and then Councillor Hemming.
So if I understood correctly, Timothy did explain that UNSM are looking into this and they will be contacting the province. So it's kind of like repetitious. So I would think we would leave it with the UNSM. Thank you.
Yeah. I know that NSFM, of course, was involved in extensive negotiations with the province over how this minimum planning standards thing would roll out. I'm certain they're talking about it. But Councillor Hemming, could you hold the phone closer to your mouth, Councillor?
Yeah, can you hear me now?
That's better. Yes.
Okay. This is just busy work. We have enough to do. That's not going to make any difference where we write a letter, whatever. The province is going to have a schedule, and we're going to have a schedule. This is just one more letter we have to generate. It's just a duplication. So if I'm trying to avoid any sort of busy work for the staff at the moment. So this is just repetitious busy work. So I'm not going to support this.
Thank you very much. For any further discussion? All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
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 Could you raise your hands and keep them raised, please? 1, 2, 3, 4. And Councillor McNeil, was that an aye or did you say aye?
Aye, yes, I did, yes.
So that's 5 opposed. Nay.
Nay.
Nay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold on. What? How? Let me see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Are we missing somebody?
No, there's 6 on there.
Oh, there were 6? Okay. I'm just not seeing everything properly on my screen. All right. All right. The motion is defeated. Thank you very much, folks. All right. Let's move on in that case. Next, King's Transit Authority. Maybe I'll ask John if he'll speak to this. You're muted, John.
King's Transit Authority, I'm just going to go and bring up the email. Glenn was just curious as to whether we had a plan for reactivation as things may improve. And I said, I'll get back to you and then just get a sense from council if you want us to work on a plan for reactivation and would we be open to it. Just to clarify some of the messages that were sent out, the original message from the minister said all municipalities recognize this as an essential service. In an email from the minister to King's Transit, it suggested that he would leave it up to the local municipalities to make their decision. With that said, it's still an essential service, and Glenn has asked, I'll just get his email here. It says here, for planning purposes, given that the numbers for the Western region have been stable, do you have a sense of what council's criteria will be for service resumption? And I don't. I know that we should probably at least consider having a special meeting if required to make a decision, if it's deemed to be suitable to start up again. And I would ask that we have that flexibility. If it changes, we'll call a special meeting and deal with the matter as urgently as possible, if council's okay with that.
But what Glenn is asking for is he's asking for some sort of a benchmark that he can use to predict what we might choose. When he asks what criteria council would require to be in place in order to reopen the service, he's wanting to know, like, I don't know how we'd even quantify that.
Yes, I'd like to, if you. Sorry, John.
No problem.
If you check the map that the province has out of all the different zones, you'll know that our zone has gone up.
Yes.
Yes.
It's up to 40 some now, and that's Digby and Yarmouth. I don't think at this point have anything, but one of the local fishermen I was talking to this morning told me there was a crew coming in from Pubnico they wouldn't let them dock at the wharf. They had to go out and drop anchor, and they have to self-quarantine the whole crew on the boat. So, you know, we're still, we're going up, we're not going down.
Right.
Councillor Sheridan?
Yes, in that regard, I would think that we wait till they wanted us to ease back in and give us some, and lift some of our restrictions as well, so we can get out a little bit. But to put the buses back on, I think that's premature at this time until they give us, start lifting some restrictions for us as well.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Councillor Henry?
Yeah, I would agree with that as well. Nothing's changed from the last time we visited this. If anything, it's intensified. So in my opinion, nothing's changed to hold the course that we adopted a couple weeks ago.
All right. Thanks very much. So Deputy Warden.
And I feel the same way. I mean, until the situation changes, I do not feel that the bus should be running.
That's right. Even at the moment, of course, as Councillor McNeil points out, the curve is still going up. And even once it plateaus and starts to go down, it will be at minimum 100 days before the number of cases that we have in Canada is lower than the number of cases that we have today. So we're talking about a high risk of infection, even if everything were to be turning around right now, a high risk of infection persisting for at least the next 100 days. Right. So it'd be hard for me. It'd be hard for me to be revisiting this as a topic of conversation until we've at least reached the point where it's plateauing and starting to come down. All right. So,
all right. I'll let Glenn know.
Thank you, Councillor LeBlanc.
But I have a question.
Yeah.
What?
Councillor LeBlanc.
And I haven't had a meeting yet with the board. So I don't know what they're thinking, and have they given us any thoughts about what the board itself has decided, because their plan all along was to not have that transit running. So to hear that from him all of a sudden, I'm not quite sure what that means, because I had no information that happened.
That's the extent of the email, and I did email him back and say I would have the discussion with council. So I'm going to get back to him, and there's no vote going on here, but council wants to hold what they originally decided upon, and they're going to want to hear more from the province before they move.
Well, exactly. Okay. Thank you.
All right. Terrific. Let's go on in that case to recommendations, and I hope the Deputy Warden has a glass of water on hand because there's quite a lot of them. Deputy Warden, so we're on page 33 of 83 in the package right now. You do good.
Well, mine I had to do differently. So my first motion is AM-1.2.5.
That's right. That's the one.
Declaration of Proclamation Policy Amend. AM-1.2.5 Declaration of Proclamation Policy Amend. I move pursuant to 7 days notice having been given at February 11th, 2020 Committee of the Whole, that Municipal Council amend AM-1.2.5 Declaration of Proclamation Policy by adding March as Epilepsy Awareness Month and March 26th as Purple Day, and by changing National to Nova Scotia Heritage Day in February statutory holiday.
Seconder for the motion. Seconded by Councillor LeBlanc. Discussion on the motion. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion's carried. Thank you very much, folks. Deputy Warden.
Digby Annapolis Development Corporation. Dissolved. In accordance with the recommendation of Committee of the Whole, I move that Municipal Council approve the dissolution of Digby Annapolis Development Corporation as per Section 5 of the intermunicipal agreement signed with the municipality of the District of Digby.
Seconder for the motion. Seconded by Councillor Hemming. Discussion on the motion. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Thank you. Opposed? Motion carried. Thanks very much.
Lawrencetown Exhibition Youth Arena, letter of acknowledgement for RFD grant. I move in accordance with the recommendation of Committee of the Whole that Municipal Council approve a letter of acknowledgement to the Lawrencetown Exhibition Youth Arena for their application to the province for a recreation facility development grant for a safety and efficiency upgrades and upgrades to support co-gender hockey, noting that Municipal Council is aware of the application and adding that Council has not seen a municipal grant application and no funding has been promised.
Seconder for the motion.
Second.
Second by Councillor Fowler. Discussion on the motion. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. Thanks very much.
New road name in Victoria Beach, Marigold Lane. Pursuant to the recommendation of Committee of the Whole, I move that Municipal Council approve the road name Marigold Lane as the new road name for the access road at the Marigold Retreat Center in Victoria Beach.
Seconder for the motion. Seconded by Councillor Hemming. Discussion on the motion. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. Thank you.
Town Hall District 9, no, Town Hall Number 9, District 6, May 26, 2020. I move pursuant to the recommendation of Committee of the Whole that Town Hall Number 9 in District 6 be held on Tuesday, May 26, 2020.
Obviously, this is a motion that won't be able to go through because it's in opposition to the resolution of council to suspend all meetings. So perhaps what we can have is if the deputy warden would withdraw the motion, maybe we could have this simply deferred until those restrictions are lifted. And we'll have to set a new date then.
I will withdraw the motion.
Thank you very much. All right, let's go on in that case to support for youth.
Youth participation in academic or athletic events. Develop a policy. In accordance with recommendation of Committee of the Whole, I move that Municipal Council request staff to develop a policy on supporting youth in academic or athletic events.
Seconder for the motion. Seconded by Councillor LeBlanc. Discussion on the motion. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. Thank you.
Royal Robot Letter of Support. I move in accordance with the recommendation of Committee of the Whole that Municipal Council send a strong letter of support, noting we are in the process of developing a policy on this and including the importance of working together as a team to collectively strategize to solve problems, complete tasks, and demonstrate leadership with the community and organizations.
Seconder for the motion. Seconded by Councillor Hemming. Thank you. Discussion on the motion. All in favor signify by saying, oh, Councillor McDonald. Please, Councillor McDonald.
Yeah. What is a strong letter of support? We have maybe 100 youth groups, maybe 200 teens, youth groups. I'm not sure where this is going. I'm not sure why strong letter of support. I don't understand. Help me.
Thank you. Councillor Henning.
Well, I don't think it makes any difference. So we're just asking for to put together a letter of support for the project.
Yeah.
As simple as that, whether it's strong or weak, just a letter of support. It seems like we do that all the time.
That's true. I think that the adjective in the motion, it's there because I think the person who made the motion originally was quite passionate about it. But we don't send out weak letters of support. We only send strong letters of support. That's the only style we write.
Very good. So it's just
could someone make a motion for a weak letter of support? Just kidding.
No, John.
All right. Any further discussion? Councillor McNeil, do you want to speak?
No, I just didn't know if you guys could still hear me or not. That's all.
I can hear you. All right. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. Thank you.
So the next one wouldn't be efficient either.
That's true.
To invite them to Committee of the Whole, so.
That's right. So let's leave that where it is. All right.
Okay.
Next.
Municipal use of copper fixtures as components of a pandemic preparedness. I moved pursuant to the recommendation of Committee of the Whole that Municipal Council refer municipal use of copper fixtures and components of pandemic preparedness to staff for consideration and report back to Committee of the Whole.
Seconder for the motion.
McDonald.
Second by Councillor McDonald. Discussion on the motion.
Yeah,
Councillor Sheridan.
Yeah, I just find it taking up staff time at this time because with this pandemic, the doorknobs it wouldn't matter, right? So I just feel like it would be taking up too much staff time, so I won't be supporting this. Thank you.
Interestingly enough, there's been a number of newspaper articles and news articles on this specifically in relation to COVID-19, because it's been determined that brass, copper, and bronze fixtures, those surfaces, the COVID-19 virus lasts less than 4 hours on those, whereas it lasts for days on virtually every other surface. And there's a hospital in the United States which has already installed brass in all these various positions. They found that their rates of hospital-acquired infections have dropped by 43%. So this is one of those. This is again, it's one of those things that's an alteration in infrastructure. We own infrastructure. It's something that could potentially be phased, but something that directly has an impact on whether or not people fall ill to illnesses specifically like a coronavirus. I think that obviously we're too late to have a significant impact probably on this particular infection because we'd have to switch things over right away. But this should be an eye-opener for all of us. And there's a number of international bodies are now recommending that hospitals should be doing the switch immediately and questioning why, in fact, hospitals didn't make the switch decades ago.
And I understand that. I was just going to suggest that if we build a new building, possibly that we should look at it at that point, but to put more money into aging infrastructure, I don't see the value in that. That's just my opinion. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Deputy Warden.
And I agree. I mean, yeah, it does delay the virus being on there at a short period of time, but unless you have somebody standing at every fixture, and when I go in the washroom and come out, somebody cleans the knob, or you go in the washroom and comes out and somebody cleans the knob, then to me, if it's not cleaned every time somebody touches it, because you could touch it more than once within a 4-hour period. And I agree too that if we're even thinking about creating a new municipal building, that should be something that would be looked at that point in time.
Thank you. Councillor McDonald.
Since this was last brought up, I noticed around my house, which is part of it is 1832 and the rest of it's 18 something, all my doorknobs and plates are either copper or brass. And so I looked into this, Mr. Warden, since you brought it up, and sure enough, the reason is to help delay or prevent carrying of these viruses and other diseases. I talked to a mechanical engineer, and that person said that is why you have those, because of previous epidemics. They were installed in homes, and the only thing better is silver. And I think silver is probably a little pricey. But that's why I seconded it. I'm not sure we need staff to spend a lot of time on it, but I would, even if this is dropped, maybe if we need to change out a piece of door opening hardware, that maybe we should just automatically look at those that hardware made out of those elements, because it does work, and it's been proven to work more than 100 years. This isn't a new thing. I think it's very cool that my house is filled with these things. And I probably said enough. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor McDonald. Councillor Hannon.
Yeah, I'm gonna support this.
If you could hold your phone closer to your mouth, Councillor Hemming, thank you.
There's a lot of work that the staff need to do, but I don't want to lose this piece. And the way the motion is written, it said, back to a committee of the whole. That could be 6 months down the road. So I think the motion is a good one. So I don't want to lose the piece, and particularly I don't want to lose the piece because I suspect there's going to be federal infrastructure monies available, and I want to make sure that staff knows some of the needs as we look through that. So I just don't want to lose this. It's not urgent for me, but I don't want to lose it. It's on the schedule, and I think staff will get to it when they can.
Thank you. Councillor Morrison?
Thank you. We've ended up discussing the substance of what essentially is a procedural motion. All we're doing with this motion is asking staff to consider it and come back to us. New paragraph. I consider it to be important, but this is not the place to discuss something about which we're asking staff to give us a report sometime in the future. I'm in favor of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Morrison. Further discussion?
Yeah,
Councillor McNeil?
Yeah. Is this to give staff the permission to do it, or was this for staff to report to us?
This is for staff to develop some sort of a recommendation or report for committee of the whole.
Okay, because I have the same concern as Wendy and Martha, that the expense of it is going to be huge, and the other side of that coin too is like Martha was saying, who's going to wipe those off every time? And not only that, but our exits, our stairwells, But anyway, yeah, that's my thought.
Thank you very much. If any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Hey,
Nay.
Okay, the motion's carried. Thank you very much. That's 6 to 5.
Could I just comment?
6 to 5.
Are those recorded, by the way?
I have my motions recorded, Carolyn.
Wasn't,
Me as well, Carolyn, if you don't mind, please.
Did I miscount?
I think you did.
Can we show the hands for in favor once again? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6, and opposed would be 5.
I have a question though.
Yes, Councillor LeBlanc.
This motion was only to have it looked at with its,
Robert,
and if it would happen, right? That would
That's
be
right.
something
It's
down the
just to have it looked at. Yes.
Yeah.
Councillor Fowler.
Thank you.
yeah, I heard somebody say they'd like to have their motion recorded, and I think that's a good idea. And also on that land use motion for the meeting, I'd like that recorded too. You can go back.
Thank you. The motion would be recorded. It's in the minutes. The fact that the motion was proposed.
Name recorded, yes.
Yes.
Yep.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank
So
you.
the nays are recorded. You're saying?
If councillors request that their nay vote be recorded, then Carolyn records the nay votes.
Record.
Okay. So I'm requesting. I'm
Thank you.
requesting that too.
Carolyn, would you like to
So
speak?
mine.
So right now, on this motion, I have Deputy Warden Roberts and Councillor Sheridan requesting their nay votes to be recorded.
Yes.
And
Are there
McNeil.
others?
And Councillor McNeil
Yes.
would like his recorded as well, and so would Councillor Gunn.
Yes.
Councillor Fowler?
Councillor Fowler.
Councillor Fowler too, yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
All
I
right.
need that every time you want your nay vote recorded, it must be requested, please.
Councillor Hemming, Councillor LeBlanc had a question, and then Councillor Hemming. Councillor
No,
LeBlanc?
I'll let Hemming.
Councillor Hemming?
No, my question, mine was just an observation. Had nothing to do with the motion as much as what John McDonald was saying. His house was built in 1832. That's the year my house was built. So
Oh, neat.
we've got something in common.
All right, so let's go on to the next one, folks.
Project request for partnering. Act as partner to Centerley Hall for Farm Credit Corporation Agri-Spirit Fund. In accordance with the recommendation of Committee of the Whole, I move that that municipality agree to act as a partner as required by the Farm Credit Corporation, FCC, Agri-Spirit Fund to receive contributed money and issue a tax receipt.
Seconder for the motion.
McNeil.
Seconded by Councillor McNeil. Discussion on the motion. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. Thank you.
Fundy Folk Association Evergreen Theatre 2019-20 grant. I move in accordance with the recommendation of Committee of the Whole that Municipal Council approve a grant in the amount of $2,400 from the 2019-20 Community Halls and Centers Assistance Program to the Fundy Folk Association Evergreen Theatre to assist with costs associated with upgrades and repairs to the theater in accordance with AM-1.4.9 Community Grants Policy.
Seconded by Councillor McDonald. Discussion on the motion. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion's carried. Thank you.
Milford and Area Community Association 2019-2020 grant. Pursuant to the recommendation of Committee of the Whole, I move that Municipal Council approve a grant in the amount of $1,200 from the 2019-20 the Community Halls and Centers Assistance Program to the Milford and Area Community Association to assist with costs associated with replacing the flooring in the hall in accordance with AM-1.4.9 Community Grants Policy.
Seconded by Councillor Gunn. Discussion on the motion. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. Thank you.
Bridgetown and Area Chamber of Commerce 2019-2020 grant. I move pursuant to the recommendation of Committee of the Whole that Municipal Council approve a grant in the amount of $5,000 from the 2019-20 Marketing and Promotional Partnership Program to the Bridgetown and Area Chamber of Commerce to assist with costs associated with the Bridgetown Walking Trails Project, promotional community brochures and signage in accordance with AM-1.4.9 Community Grants Policy.
Seconded by Councillor Fowler. Discussion on the motion. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. Thank you.
Royal Canadian Legion Branch 112 Lawrencetown 2019-2020 grant. In accordance with the recommendation of Committee of the Whole, I move that Municipal Council approve a grant in the amount of $2,400 from the 2019-20 Community Halls and Centers Assistance Program to the Royal Canadian Legion Branch 112 Lawrencetown to assist with the costs associated with the installation of a heat pump for the hall in accordance with AM-1.4.9 Community Grants Policy.
Seconded by Councillor Morrison. Discussion on the motion. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. Thank you.
Cornwallis Community Gardens Association 2019-20 grant. I move in accordance with the recommendation of Committee of the Whole that Municipal Council approve a grant in the amount of $2,939 from the 2019-20 Capital Projects Assistance Program, small project matching grants to the Cornwallis Community Gardens Association to assist with the costs associated with the
Conversations in the Gardens
Conversations in the Gardens project. I lost my place. In accordance with the AM-1.4.9 Community Grants Policy.
Seconder for the motion. Seconded by Councillor McDonald. Discussion on the motion. All in favor of the motion. Oh, Councillor Morrison.
Whoa.
Councillor Morrison.
Thank you. I should like to point out that at Committee of the Whole, when this matter was discovered, was discussed, I removed myself from the discussion because my wife is the general manager of the Cornwallis Community Gardens Association, and I will not vote on the motion this time.
Thank you, Councillor Morrison. Further discussion? All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion's carried. Thank you.
Municipal readiness acknowledgement COVID-19 pandemic. Pursuant to the recommendation of Committee of the Whole, I move that Municipal Council acknowledge the public health and economic seriousness of the COVID-19 pandemic to the residents of Annapolis County by listing messages and alerts generated by Nova Scotia Health and the Public Health Agency of Canada on the municipal website.
Seconded by Councillor Fowler. Discussion the motion. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. Thank you.
So what about the next one is an invitation to Committee of the Whole, so that would be postponed, would it not?
Yes. Yes, it'd have to be.
Okay. Refurbishment of bus 62 payment from 2019-20 capital reserve. In accordance with the recommendation of Committee of the Whole, I move that King's Transit Authority use capital reserve is held by King's Transit Authority to pay for the refurbishment of Annapolis County Bus 62 in the amount of $13,251.22 parts and labor.
Seconder for the motion. Seconded by Councillor Fowler. Discussion on the motion. All in favor? Oh, Councillor Gunn?
Ran to Billy, so.
Thank you. But the refurbishment, that's like new tires, oil change, right?
I think it's more extensive than that. Can maybe Councillor LeBlanc could comment?
It's fixing up the old bus that with the new parts of other buses that they have received from Halifax. That's my understanding.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. Further discussion? Councillor, Deputy Warden?
So we're gonna fix bus 62 with the old buses that they received from HRM?
Well, that was
Councillor LeBlanc?
that was the plan when they received all the buses. They received, what is it, 5 buses from HRM, and their buses are way better than our buses, and they have parts that match our buses. That was the reasoning of getting those buses, and they were given out for free. So basically, they're looking at parts, and I think it's going to be mostly labor that we'll be looking at. However, I'm not certain about that. I would have to ask, or John Ferguson would have to ask Mr. Bannon himself what parts and whatever are needed for this bus.
Oh, because I thought it was the other way around.
Well, no, we
thought
have
we were-
received one bus. One of the buses that we transported the whole bus to our system, and that was looked at and fixed and checked over and did whatever they did their runs and whatever. And that bus was basically given to us.
Oh, so now, so how many buses would that give us if bus 62 is refurbished?
Again, I think we're going to stay with our 3 buses. We're not adding a new bus to our fleet.
Carolyn, did you want to speak there?
I just wanted to remind, and I see John's got his hand up as well. This is following discussions held at March Committee of the Whole. So
yeah.
John probably has brought up more information there.
Yeah.
Okay. John?
Yeah, we sent emails out at the time. Glenn Bannon was asking because they had to start working on it. The buses were coming in. So there's not going to be an additional bus. They believe the low kilometers on the bus from Halifax that they can retrofit and it can replace the bus, the 40-footer that we had. So that's what was sent out. I think they call it bus 56 is due for its annual brake inspection. We wrote back at that time, and I think at that time I did include the deputy warden in those emails They needed to go ahead on it. We said, go ahead. They're using the capital reserve that's within their budget, but because we're in a contractual arrangement, we have to give them permission to do so.
Okay.
So they refurbished the buses that had lower mileage.
Not bus 62.
I don't know what bus number it is, but just so that we don't blur the lines, we're not getting an additional bus added in.
Right.
We're retrofitting a bus. The number is insequential of the bus.
Oh, okay.
Okay, further discussion?
But
All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. Thank you.
Annapolis County, Annapolis Valley Chamber of Commerce release budgeted funds. I move in accordance with the recommendation of Committee of the Whole Municipal Council releases of $10,000 as budgeted in 2019-20 to the Annapolis Valley Chamber of Commerce for tourism in the County of Annapolis.
Seconded by Councillor Fowler. Discussion on the motion. Holly.
So we paid the Annapolis Valley Chamber of Commerce $10,000 in July.
In July of last year.
Right, 2019.
Okay. Thank you. Councillor Morrison.
Thank you. I will vote for this motion, and I will also indicate that when it's appropriate, I will ask representatives of that chamber to come to Committee of the Whole and explain to us how our money fits in with their overall budget. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Morrison. Deputy Warden.
So did I hear Holly say in 2019, we gave them $10,000 in July?
Yes. So is this?
So if this motion's passed, this is an additional 10,000. Am I correct?
Is that correct, Holly?
Well, it's saying as budgeted. So we had already budgeted for the 10,000 and we paid it out. So I'm not certain if this is an additional 10,000 or.
Okay. Councillor Sheridan.
I think we should get more clarity on this because that would be two 10,000 allotments in 1 year.
Yeah.
For one calendar year.
Councillor Bell.
And that's exactly what I was thinking. We have already given it. So were we behind there in our motion, or was it?
John's got his hand up.
John, maybe you can clarify this for us.
Yeah, we're not advancing any more than $10,000. It was a budgeted item. It's really no longer a matter for the grant approval process. I think they've asked for 20,000, and I think they've asked for 20,000 each year, but council's not approved more than 10. They've made it a budget item. It's only $10,000 that's getting advanced.
So this isn't. Okay, so this is not a double payment for last year's operations then?
No, not to my knowledge at all. Holly, you'd have a history on the checks. We only give $10,000 per year.
Right, right. And it was already approved in the 1920 budget. So we paid it in July. So this motion is irrelevant, really.
Councillor Hemming?
Yeah, that was my concern. I'm not quite sure why it shows up here. I thought it was a done deal and it was over with because I remember sharing some concern that I wasn't quite sure that was the best use of $10,000 because I'm not sure that organization is fully in line with the strategies that the municipality is doing. So I'm surprised to see this on the agenda. I certainly don't want to give another 10,000.
Councillor Sheridan?
Yeah, so I guess I'm confused. So Holly's saying that you've already written a check and given $10,000, so it's a done deal. So why are we even discussing it if that's all we give per year?
So their request, they send in a request every year getting ready for budget. So this year's budget, we still have it in the budget, I believe, $10,000 under economic development, if I'm not mistaken. And it's the request for it to occur this year. So it's two separate years. We're now into the new fiscal year.
But we didn't have enough money like for the clinic in Middleton and the other people that have asked. So maybe we should put this aside as well and not pass this until we know where we stand in their budget. That would be my opinion.
Yeah, and that's fine, but you'd have to make a resolution to do so. And then we'd have to notify them that they're not getting the $10,000.
Councillor Morrison?
Thank you. If I read this motion correctly, it's not to do with the current fiscal year.
Right.
It says 2019, 2020.
Right.
And
I just think that's an error. They usually send in a request to present in March for the upcoming fiscal year. This is related to a March resolution. I think it's real. It's budgeted in the 2020-2021 budget. And this is 2019-20. That's an error in the resolution, I guess is the best way to describe it.
And of course,
So
the budget. Go ahead, Councillor Morrison.
So is it true that they were asking for money, which apparently we have included in our 2021 budget, but we have not passed the 2021 budget? So how could we have a motion to release money from a budget that's not been approved? And the other thing is, I've got a bit of a red face here. Where were we all at Committee of the Whole when how did this get to Committee of the Whole? And why did we recommend it to council?
Look, I'm looking at it right now and just looking at the history over the last few years. Typically, they wouldn't get the money if they would have requested money the previous year, they likely wouldn't have gotten it until after the fiscal year started. So the money that they received in July probably was from 18-19.
No.
They got it in 1819 too. 1819.
Holly, if I may, it's when the check gets written. The check gets written in the next fiscal year, unfortunately, because it's a request that goes in at the end of the previous fiscal year. And if you double check, I think you'll go back and you'll see that's how the checks have been distributed in the past years. Because council usually doesn't decide on it until they vote on the budget.
Right.
So this particular request came in 2019-20, but it doesn't get into the approval until the 2021 budget.
Right. So the budget is approved in April of each year, and they receive it in the summer of each year.
Right. So what they received in July would have been under the request from the previous fiscal year.
No.
Councillor Morrison, the floor is still yours, I believe. I'll come back to you.
Thank you. The whole matter does not make sense. Notwithstanding all of the comments, this motion calls for the release. Okay, and I think that some of us didn't pay enough attention in Committee of the Whole, and I'm not sure that this is a motion that should be proceeded with as it is currently worded. Thank you.
Agree.
Thank you. Councillor Gunn?
Thank you. So just so I can get it straight, this Annapolis Valley Board of Trade has become a line budget item, budget process. Every year that's in there now. They don't have to go through the grant process. That's what I'm getting.
We were asked to put it in the economic development budget.
There's a lump sum of $28,000 for strategic initiatives, and it's part of that $28,000 each year.
We can go back and track exactly when the requests were made and what checks were issued, and I think that'll provide the clarity.
I think that's the right procedure. I think we need to have this clarified. Perhaps what we should do, I know Deputy Warden would like to speak, but maybe she'll actually help with this. What we could have is the mover and seconder withdraw the motion, and then we could simply have a request that staff clarify it and bring a fresh recommendation for our next meeting.
I withdraw the motion.
And I withdraw.
So the motion's withdrawn, and so I don't think we need an official resolution to have this done. But if staff could just clarify this and bring a fresh recommendation with with wording that we're quite certain of for our next meeting. That would be great.
Right.
All right.
Yep.
Okay, let's go on in that case to the, let's see. Do people want to take a 10-minute moment to grab a fresh cup of coffee or something at this point?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Let's break for 10 minutes and resume right at noon. Thanks very much.
Art, are you still with us?
I hope that tastes good, Bruce.
Homemade corn chowder. There's no way I can eat it without letting you see it.
I like that homemade corn, eh?
Yeah. It might mean something else in the hills of Kentucky or in the mountains in Cape Breton. You don't know.
Does anybody watch this program called Country Cooking with a lady down in the southern United States?
I haven't seen it.
With Trisha Yearwood, yeah.
Oh yes, yeah, Sherry watches that a bit.
No, that's probably a different one.
Okay.
There used to be someone down there years ago. Well, Paula Dean, she's still around, but she was removed for some of her comments. But I don't know if anyone remembers. There used to be an older guy, and I think it was called Cajun cooking, and he always had a dishcloth looped in his belt, and he working away, and he'd take that off and clean his hands, and he'd put it back on. He was a character, but he hasn't been on for probably 20 years.
Who's the person from the southern United States who has had the most influence on Canadian eating?
Colonel Sanders.
Yes.
Perhaps.
I remember the first, it was called Southern Fried Chicken, mid to late 50s on Quinpool Road. And it was all the rage. You just had to go there and you got the Southern fried chicken and a little dish of syrup and all of that. And then in came Colonel Sanders.
Nice thing about meeting from home is you get the cookies when they're still warm.
Yes.
And we are still recording. It wasn't paused.
Oh,
Well,
I'm not ashamed of my cookies. Well, a little bit now. Now I made it weird. Now I am ashamed.
I'll pause it while we're still waiting. I'll get David to edit it out.
Thanks. Thank you very much. Welcome back, everybody. I'd like to call our meeting back to order, and I believe I'll hand it back over to the deputy warden to proceed with recommendations.
All right. Animal Control Town of Middleton. Renew contract to March 31st, 2023. In accordance with the recommendation of Committee of the Whole, I move that Municipal Council authorize the Warden and the Municipal Clerk to sign a 3-year contract for animal control with the Town of Middleton ending March 31st, 2023.
Seconded by Councillor LeBlanc. Discussion on the motion. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. Thank you very much.
Margarettsville Volunteer Fire Department released $30,000 from Fire Service Capital Reserve. I move in accordance with the recommendation of Committee of the Whole, Municipal Council authorize the withdrawal of $30,000 from the Fire Service Capital Reserve to the Margarettsville and District Volunteer Fire Department in the 2021 fiscal year to complete the refurbishment of the rescue unit and a new mobile radios.
Seconded by Councillor McDonald. Discussion on the motion. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion's carried. Thank you.
2021 balanced budget. Pursuant to the recommendation of Committee of the Whole, I move that Municipal Council approve the proposed balanced budget.
Seconder for the motion. Seconded by Councillor Fowler. Discussion on the motion.
I have a question.
Councillor McNeil.
Yeah, I have a real problem with this. But secondly, I'd like to know, there's nothing there, but I'd like to know what the request for proposal was from AFR. And I can tell you now that I'm not in favor of passing this without having more information. We've got too many blank spots in there, and I don't think I'm doing due diligence to approve this budget.
Okay. Deputy Warden.
And I will not be supporting this budget because I feel the same way. I don't feel that passing a budget without a breakdown in the waste transfer columns. And I don't agree that we take our $55,000 from recreation and culture, which I've been there a long time and we've never done that. And I believe that we should have maybe looked at the budget a little closer and scaled it back according to the COVID-19 issue. And that wasn't looked at either. So thank you very much.
Very much. Further discussion? Councillor Sheridan.
So with my understanding, we will be looking at the COVID each quarter, and removing funds if we have it, access to operating reserves, or am I wrong in saying that was the next motion coming up? I'm thinking because they need it to move forward with some kind of a budget plan, that we will be looking at COVID-19 issues quarterly, is my understanding. Please, somebody correct me if I'm wrong. Thank you.
I believe that if the next motion passes, then you're absolutely correct. Councillor LeBlanc.
So, okay, I kind of thought maybe for today we would receive, because it was asked to see what a breakdown would be for the waste department and where the money was going. Now, I know we need a budget. if that part of the budget has not been totally done, can we approve parts of the budget and ask for more information? Somehow I thought we were going to get the information, but we're not getting it, or it takes time to get it. And secondly, we also had talked about taking the councillors 1 month and
That was
put it
defeated.
to the 3
That was
months.
defeated. That was defeated.
Right, the 3 months thing. But I mean, we were going to the 3-month budget thing, right? So how do we get our answers, have a budget to kind of get going here because we need one, and move on to 3 months? Can we approve the budget for 3 months and then go from there, or just a thought? Thank you.
Thank you.
If I might,
yes, is that Councillor McNeil?
yes.
Please go ahead.
Yeah, if I might, I mean, unless I know what the proposal was from EFR to operate that system, there's no way I can approve it. There's no way I can in good conscience. It's just not, I mean, we've got a $1.7 million budget for garbage with very little information. And to me, my number one thing is, what was their proposal? Period.
John, would you like to comment in any way?
We haven't gone with their proposal.
Doesn't matter, John. There's a proposal there, whether we've gone with it or not, and we have no idea what it is.
We did break down. We did have this discussion in camera just last week, so we did talk about that. I'm not sure what the FR matter has as it relates to the not going with the FR. And do all due respect with EFR, it's just a proposal that we're not working with.
So what are we working with?
It does involve the county and employment. So if you want to have that discussion, I'd be happy to have it in camera. If you make a resolution to go.
That's why I mentioned it in camera.
But in camera, we didn't go in camera for that purpose. So if there's a,
we could
want to make a
go
motion to go into camera, you can.
Yeah, we could go into camera.
You have to do it in open session to make
a stated reason for it. Yeah. Councillor Fowler?
Yeah, I think we should defer this until last thing of the day.
I'm sorry, what was the end of that sentence?
Just to defer it until the end of the last thing on the agenda.
That in-camera session?
Yeah.
Yes, okay, fair enough. Thank you. Deputy Warden?
So if we defer the in-camera session, then we're deferring the budget till the end of the day. Is that my understanding?
I think it won't take long to explain it. We did tell council this last week, and if you want to go into camera to discuss it, you just have to make a resolution. We'll go in camera. It won't take long.
All right. Well, there's currently a motion before us. Well, so what's our procedure, folks? Because we don't want to withdraw, because we don't want to withdraw the motion because we actually do
defer the motion until we come out of camera.
Okay, we have that move to defer this until we come back from out of camera. Moved by Councillor LeBlanc, seconded by Councillor Fowler. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. Thank you. Could we have a motion to go in camera under the MGA section 20? Which section deals with employees?
It's both contractual and employment. Or employee.
I'm not sure which those sections. I'm not sure what those sections are.
Carolyn
E is contractual. Carolyn.
C is personnel matters and E is contract negotiations.
Okay, so B and E.
C and
C and E. Okay, thank you. So a motion to go in camera under the MGA section 22.2 C and E, and it's been moved and seconded. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. Thanks very much. So Thank you very much. I'd like to call our meeting back to order. So we just are resuming after an in-camera discussion, and we are returning to the motion, which is the approval of the proposed balanced budget. Is there any further discussion from councillors? It's already been moved and seconded. If there's no further discussion, then all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye.
Councillor Gunn has his hand up.
Oh, Councillor Gunn, were you wanting to speak? Or were you anticipating the vote?
He's on mute.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that it's really hard to vote on the budget when you can't go over it line by line and all the rest. I know we did skip the pages. You know, I have great faith in the staff that, you know, everything's going straight ahead on it. And it's a straight up budget. So, you know, but it's not a great way to pass a budget. I just want to make that comment. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Councillor McDonald?
So, Mr. Warden, here's a what if. And I really like the idea of having a balanced budget. I like it a lot. But I'm wondering, so if it passes, boom, we run with it right away. If it does not pass at this time, what happens?
If a municipality can't pass a budget, eventually the province will dissolve the municipal government and replace it.
But what happens in the meantime?
What happens in the meantime? Well, in the meantime, I would suggest that council should apply itself with every bit of vigor it has to figuring out what would make the budget something they'd be willing to contemplate passing. So if the budget isn't passed, we'd have to start to consider exactly what the objection is and precisely how you would address it in order to get to the point that you could have a majority. It's not required that we have a unanimous vote, but it is required, of course, to have a simple majority.
Thank you very much.
Councillor LeBlanc, then Councillor Fowler, then Councillor Morrison.
Well, realistically, we need a budget to keep going, but we could all definitely put a date in to review it 3 months to see what we can do or change or how it has to be changed, especially in this circumstances of this time in our country, let alone Nova Scotia or Annapolis County. Correct?
Yes, and I believe that the next motion, which would be up for our consideration, would be us committing ourselves to reviewing it every 3 months.
Yes, yes, to definitely do that because we need to be sure.
Yeah, if we have to be flexible, we have to be flexible.
That's right.
That's right. Thank you. Councillor Fowler?
Councillor Fowler is still muted.
He's on
There he
mute.
goes.
Okay, unmuted now.
Councillor Fowler?
Yes, I just wanted to say I have great faith in council and staff.
Thank you, Councillor Fowler. Councillor Morrison?
Thank you. I agree with Councillor Fowler and Councillor LeBlanc. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, if that's any further comments, all right, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay, recorded, please.
McNeil too, recorded, please.
All right, so the motion is carried. Thank you very much. Let's go on to the next motion, Deputy Warden.
Quarterly review of budget for consideration. I move pursuant to the recommendations of Committee of the Whole that Municipal Council review the budget quarterly to compare with the previous year to determine the possibility of transferring funds to a reserve and or to look at items council was unable to fund in the budget in order to make a one-time decision.
Seconder for the motion, seconded by Councillor McDonald. Discussion on the motion. Councillor Morrison.
Thank you. This is both a very wise and a very smart motion. And when I look in the mirror, I will admire us for having this motion. It indicates that council is responsible in two ways. First of all, council is responsible for the budget once passed. Second, council needs to be responsible in its approach as to how it considers financial situations and substantive matters associated with those financial considerations throughout the course of the fiscal year. And if this motion passes, we will have done those things. And what we must do next, if this motion passes, is to make sure when we have that quarterly discussion that we are focused on the items on which we want to discuss. And I think the whole thing is going to be a very pleasurable and educational experience. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Morrison. Further discussion? All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. Thank you. Deputy Warden.
Levy and collection of tax rate for fiscal year 2020-2021. Resolve that pursuant to Section 72 of the Municipal Government Act, the Municipal Council of Municipality of Annapolis County estimates the sum amounting to $11,361,849 are required for the lawful purpose of the municipality for the year ending March 31st, 2021, to be raised from residential assessment, and sums amounting to $1,014,197 are required as aforesaid to be raised from commercial assessments after creating a problem revenue from all sources other than rates for the said year, and make due the allowances for abandonment and losses which might occur in the collections of the taxes for the said year, which may be collected or collectible. And further resolve that said council hereby authorize the levy and collection of the rate of 1.015 on each $100 of the assessed value of residential resource property assessed in the assessment roll, and the rate of $1.80 each on $100 of assessment value of commercial property assessed in the assessment roll, which rates the council deems significant to raise the sums required to defray expenditures of the said municipality for the said year and any deficit from any preceding year. And further resolve that said council hereby authorize the interest at a rate of 12% per annum be charged on current rates and taxes remaining unpaid or after June 30th, 2020. And further resolve that council hereby authorizes payment of said taxes to be made to the municipal treasurer of the said municipality on or before last day of June in the said year. And further resolve that council hereby fixes June 30th, 2020 as the day after which clerk may proceed to ensure warrants for the collection of all rates and taxes unpaid.
Seconder for the motion. Seconded by Councillor Hemming. Discussion on the motion. Councillor Sheridan.
In regards to the 12% interest, if something happens that it occurs that we have to defer, that we can't defer the taxes, do we have to have a special motion in order to separate that 12% being collected on June 30th? After
John?
June 30th?
Yeah, right. We have to charge an interest rate.
Right.
And subject to the provincial department granting authority to relax on a interest charge, I think council would entertain that and probably would want to do something to create relief. It doesn't prevent us from the future from waiving it. I think we would have to have discussions with municipal affairs in that regard, because it is a required interest fee typically charged. But if they allow it, I think that we'd be willing to waive it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Councillor McDonald.
Well done, staff and council. Tax rate not going up. I couldn't be happier. I really couldn't in that regard. Thank you very much.
Terrific. Thank you. Anything further? All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. Thank you very much.
Election of area rates for 2020 and 2021. Pursuant to the recommendation of Committee of the Whole, I move that Municipal Council set the area rates for streetlights, fire hydrants, paving, sidewalks, and other specified rates as presented to the 2021 fiscal year in accordance with Section 75 of the Municipal Government. The area rate shall apply to residential, commercial, resource, and business occupancy assessment in the area.
Seconder for the motion. Seconder for the
Rick
motion.
Neal.
Second by Councillor Sheridan. Thank you. All in discussion on the motion. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. Thank you.
Authorized expenditure of $15,000 for oil tank replacement at county-owned facility. I move pursuant to the recommendation of Committee of the Whole that Municipal Council authorize an expenditure of $15,000 for the replacement of furnace oil tanks at the Municipal Administration Buildings, Annapolis Royal, the Bridgetown Municipal Building, Granville Ferry Operations Yard, and the Bridgetown Operations Yard, with $6,500 to come from Bridgetown Letter of Intent Reserve and $7,500 from the county's operational reserve.
Seconder for the motion. Seconded by Councillor Fowler. Discussion on the motion. Councillor Gunn.
I just want to state that I think this is like throwing good money after bad. I realize the tanks have to be, for the operation of the building, but just throwing a little more money after old buildings. Thank you.
Thanks very much. For any further discussion? Deputy Warden.
At some point, could we have the reserves totals sent out to us?
Sure, I can email those to you right now.
Thank you.
Perfect. All right. Further discussion? All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. Thank you.
J-class roads repaving cost share $340,000. In accordance with the recommendation of Committee of the Whole, I move that Municipal Council fund the county share of the provincial J-class road repaving of $340,000, representing 50% of the estimated capital cost for the repaving of the identified roads in Clementsport and Granville Ferry to come from the gas tax reserve.
Seconder for the motion. Seconded by Councillor Gunn. Discussion on the motion. Councillor Sheridan, and then Councillor LeBlanc, and then the Deputy Warden.
Yeah, I've thought quite a bit about this, and I'm not sure of exactly how much we're going to have left in the gas reserve. I know it's really, really tight, and I know the upcoming year is going to be, it's going to be hard for us to, with the budget that we have and with the COVID. I guess right now, I feel that we should be a little more conservative. We are definitely going to go over budget with this. Maybe we can cut back on some of the roads or wait till we have the actual reserve totals, but I can't support this today. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor LeBlanc.
And I find it very difficult to support this when what we're looking at is totally funding 50% of that. And even if it's in gas tax, because the bottom line is we have other areas, my area, that have roads that needed the constituents to pay their 25%. So to me, I find it so difficult. Well, I can't support it because of all those reasons, because not that I don't want it done, but I think that if one road has been paid 25% by the constituents, then all of the roads should be treated in that way for all other J-class roads as well. So that's what's causing me grief in not accepting this. Not that I don't want the roads to be done, just that I think that it shouldn't be probably all of the constituents of Annapolis County paying for certain roads, even if it's taken out of the gas tax. It just boils out to the same thing. Thank you.
Councillor LeBlanc, I'm going to respond briefly, and I know that John wants to say a word as well, just because it might give you a bit of peace of mind. The distinction that we're up against here, and I think Stephen did sort of go through this, is that when we've had residents contribute to the paving of their roads, is because they're having a change in their service level, an increase in their service level. But what's being done with this particular program is the repaving of roads that are in disrepair, which means that those residents already had a service level and something's been damaged and you're fixing it. So you'd think of it this way, like if you had a resident who really wanted to have a street light in front of their home, they'd be responsible for a cost for that street light. However, if a resident already had a street light in front of their home that was damaged in a windstorm and a new one had to be put there, it wouldn't be incumbent upon that resident to pay for that. That's the level of service he's already paid for, right? You're simply restoring it back to the way it should be. Do I have that right, John?
Yes. Yeah. Generally, we understand it's close to the bone for some of the areas that may have had to get an area rate and communicate with their citizens. This one's not exactly the same, but it's close enough in some people's eyes, and so we understand the dilemma that it creates. I would like to say that overall, we have gas tax projects laid out in a 5-year plan, and we've committed money for certain projects. But here's the unknown. We're going to be going into this year, likely when things start to normalize after COVID-19, there is going to be a significant amount of infrastructure work going along in which probably all levels of government are going to have to participate in. And I think from an economic stimulus perspective, that if there's any projects that are 2 and 3 years out that are committed, regardless of how important they are, that we focus our gas tax to this year when projects unfold and opportunities to share in funding occur for projects that stimulate jobs. And I think we should be ready to change our economic position, try to improve our local economics. We've got some projects that I know that will help. And it's now matching those projects up with new funds that can be coming from the federal government and the provincial government. And I would ask council, be flexible. We may say, look, we're not going to do a major infrastructure project that was planned for 3 years from now. We're going to put this money towards a project because it's more important to do it now. Now, we don't have that information, but I'm asking council to be flexible because we may have to come in here and put our shoulder to the wheel in that regard. And I'm just asking for council to say, look, our capital plan, because of this, may very well change. And for good reason. But we'll have to come back and discuss it when it comes. I'm asking for flexibility because we don't know what kind of programs are going to be put in front of us and what participations we may have to make. But it obviously would be a benefit to the community.
Thank you, John. Deputy Warden?
And I kind of agree with Councillor LeBlanc. I mean, so, and at our last meeting, the question was asked, who owned that road?
Steve, can you get on the line? Steve can help explain a lot of this stuff. He's drafted documentation that help understand.
So, and my other question is, has the province or the feds allotted any more money for this particular projects like J-class roads?
Steve here. I'm just looking up my notes here. Welton's Lane is a J-class road that came over in the 90s with the service exchange. The uniqueness of J-class roads, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah. The uniqueness of J-class roads is we've agreed to recapitalize them. They are still in the name of the province, but they are designated J-class roads, and we have them throughout the county. When we've undertaken and we've paved J-class roads,
as some of the councillors have said, with a 25% contribution from local residents who benefit from that increase in service level. We have also paved municipal roads that were created after the year 2000, when any new road created became the jurisdiction of the municipality. That funding envelope was 25% the community and 75%, the last two projects were gas tax. So I think we've been consistent in that formula, and we've been flexible in where our contribution comes. So Walton's Lane is a J-class road. It is our jurisdiction. As we've mentioned last week, every time we put a proposition question out to that particular set of landowners, it's always been defeated. The uniqueness that we have here is that they are indeed J-class roads, but they are being repaved, as the warden has said. They've already had that established level of service. And secondly, under the current COVID situation, I don't believe there's a way to undertake a plebiscite in time to move forward in lockstep with the province, because if we agree to these roads, they will tender them, they will supervise the construction, we simply make a funding contribution. And thirdly, there is an additional program, I believe it's in your agenda package, over and above this program, where they've allotted a certain amount of money per highways area. And I believe ours is 2 million, and they're looking for a nomination, another nomination from the county for those roads. But again, we're going to be faced with the same funding question about what our 50% is going to be made up of. So I think I've answered all the questions.
Thank you very much. Further questions, folks? Councillor Sheridan?
So in order to do this, if I understand the CAO correctly, we can defer some projects that are 3 years down the road and still keep us on budget and not go over and have to take anything out of reserves. Am I correct in saying that?
Okay, so let me explain it this way. I think so, Wendy. I think what you said is correct. So let's say we have 2.4 million spread out over 5 years for a variety of different projects. Let's say one project 3 years from now, it's an important project. Let's say there's 500,000 there for that project, but we see a project this year that could benefit the community more than what that project will do in 3 years. Council would have to make the decision. It's still a decision of council, but the flexibility is that you can change your capital plan to deal with issues now if you like. And that's basically what I'm saying. There is capital reserve money that is available. It's earmarked, but you can change your mind on it. And I'm only saying this because of COVID-19 and what I think is going to unfold. And I think it's going to be completely a new experience for municipalities, and the federal and provincial support on capital projects, I think, will take on various shapes and sizes. Is the best way to describe it. And I'm just suggesting we should remain flexible so that we can deal with projects that improve the county, but also help create jobs and help with the economy.
And I understand all that. I guess my concern is I don't want to have to take any money out of the reserves. I'd rather defer a project.
You mean you mean the operational reserve?
Yeah, I just don't want to take anything out of there.
I'm not suggesting we take anything out of the operating reserve. This is all capital. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I know when we go over budget, we sometimes take it out of operational reserve to cover the over budget. So I'm just concerned about, because I already think this is going to go over budget, these roads, because of, and I don't have all the whole figures in front of me with the reserves, but I do know we're tight on gas tax money. But if we can defer a project, I will support this one if I know I can defer a project down the road. I know this is important, and I know it's 50% that's being allocated from the province. So if we can stay on budget and not have to take out of operational or extra reserves, I'd be happy to support it.
Okay. Thank you. Councillor Hammond?
Thank you. I think we're all in agreement here. At least my point is suggest that the federal program will just the province and to us, as much flexibility as we can have in there is going to be, I think will be successful for the municipality. So I support this because it offers us.
Thank you, Councillor Hemming. All right. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's
None
carried.
recorded.
Thank you. So Deputy Warden, so the motion's carried?
And me.
Yes, okay.
Mr. Warden?
Two in opposition.
Right.
Yes?
I
Yes, Stephen?
just want to add a point. In terms of all the J-class roads and how the province has treated them in the past and how they're now treating them moving forward, the province, I think, without a lot of hesitation, has repaved those roads on their own. We've never been asked to contribute. And that appears to have ended about 3 years ago. They are now holding all municipalities to kind of the letter of the exchange agreement that we are responsible for the recapitalization of the road. So I think we have to have a long-term strategy in terms of how we're going to fund the repaving, because there's only one road that's still gravel, the repaving of all our municipally responsible roads as we move forward, whether we create a reserve, but some sort of funding strategy moving forward. Thanks.
Thank you. So, someone has a conversation taking place in the background that's bleeding through into the audio feed. I'm not sure who it is, but if that person could mute themselves, that would be helpful. Thank you. Carolyn?
I didn't get the number of nay votes on that. I'm sorry.
I think it was 2.
Thank you.
That's right. John? No? Deputy Warden? Yeah.
So, community culture and heritage. We're on correspondence now, are we not?
That's right. Oh, yes, I'm sorry. I thought we had one more motion to do, but we're through?
Yeah.
All right, so the next we're into correspondence. So we've received a notice of registration of a property as a provincial heritage property. This is the property that's at 131 Old Granville Road. So this is simply for the municipality to know. And could we have a motion to receive for information, please?
So moved.
By Councillor McNeil and seconded by Councillor LeBlanc. Discussion the motion, Deputy Warden.
I think a letter of congratulations should be sent to these people for taking the time and the care of making something in Annapolis County a heritage home.
All right. We can certainly do that. Councillor McDonald and then Councillor Gunn.
Yes, sir. All I was going to say was give me a minute to scroll through all these pages, but I just got here.
Okay, good. All right. Councillor Gunn.
Yeah. I'm trying to figure out the round barn, but where this round barn is.
Oh, it's
their old troops barn up there that they took down. They dismantled and they moved it down Yarmouth way. Is it that property we're talking about?
No, I don't.
The property is still here.
The building is actually still here, and it's
Yes.
an old round building.
Yeah, it's just off the number 1 highway on Old Granville Road. I've been to the. It's quite beautiful. They've done a gorgeous restoration job of the barn. I believe they're actually using the barn as a wedding space.
Oh, cool.
Oh.
So I will make that a motion.
I'll second.
We've got one on the floor right now, but we can do it right immediately after if folks would like. So it's been moved and seconded to receive for information. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. Deputy Warden.
And I would make a motion to have a letter of congratulations sent to them for taking the time and energy to have a place designated a heritage place.
Seconded by Councillor LeBlanc. Discussion on the motion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. Thank you. All right. Next, we have we've got correspondence from the Attorney General's office with reference to accessibility. And they're providing us with a toolkit. an accessibility planning toolkit for municipalities. So this is something that could be received for information. Moved by Councillor Hemming and seconded by Councillor McNeil. Discussion on the motion. All in favor saying, oh, Councillor Morrison.
Don't we have to form a committee?
Yes, we do.
Right.
But at the moment, we're not having any committee meetings. So we could form a committee right now, but it would make more sense to do it when we reconvene in person. Okay.
Thank you.
Further discussion? All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. Thank you very much. And we'll go on next.
Timothy, just to make a point, so this is clear.
Yes.
This letter now says we must have a committee and we must have a plan by April 2021. And so I think that's something I think there was a move to make the committee, and I don't know if you just made it and said, we'll determine the terms of reference later, or if you haven't made it yet. But I think it's an action that you should consider appointing people to that committee and begin that process.
So you think we should form the committee now?
I think you should at least get interest in it. If it has to be resolved at the next meeting, that's fine. You may want to go to nominating. I'm not sure if you do that for council directly or not, but you may want to. It's up to you folks.
I think it would make sense to go through the nominating process.
Yeah, I would refer to nomination for any councillors that are interested. Yes, Carolyn, go ahead.
I think you need to amend your committees of council policy that will lay out what the
Ability Advisory Committee?
yeah.
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 So
Well,
if you amend
yeah.
your policy, then you can populate the committee.
Can I make a comment? It's Deb Ryan here. One of the things that's a requirement of this because I attended the workshop back in October, is that it is a requirement to have 50% of people engaged on that committee that are with disabilities.
Okay.
So
the citizen participation will definitely involve the work of the nominating committee in that case, because advertisements will have to be submitted and so forth.
And a lot these committees that exist, some municipalities have had ability advisory committees for 30, 40 years, depending on the municipality.
Yeah.
Typically, they have a role directly with the recreation departments, and it's really about for people that want to be active and access everything. Now, this whole new approach that the province has legislated, that everything has to be in place by, I believe it's 2029 or 2030, if I'm not mistaken. And so it's about retrofitting all your facilities to make them as accessible as possible. And I think it's a very important thing, especially if we have, people that you may have mobility issues, either through, getting on in years or accidents or anything else, everything including eyesight to hearing. There's so many different aspects that have to be taken into consideration when you're designing an entrance. You'll notice on the county building, we have it spray painted orange for the steps. These are all important pieces that are necessary to meet as many ability issues as there are. So this is an important one. I think it should involve, I'll say why recreation, because they are our closest staff to citizens on a regular basis. And they would have the ability to identify citizens that may want to partake in this process. So I would suggest that you refer to nominating, but you also refer potential membership to the recreation department to see if they can generate some community interest.
All right. Wanda, I saw your hand.
You need a terms of reference first.
Right.
You invite someone to a committee if you're not, you need to be clear on what the committee is going to be laid out for. You can't just put out a general, so that
yes,
he has to be in place. So it's stating what the committee is going to be responsible for before you can populate.
Right.
There are a few examples around the province that we could actually share with the nominating committee on that before we move ahead.
Seeking interest in the community, you can do it both simultaneously. Ultimately, before you appoint, you have to have something in place, but you can work on both aspects at the same time.
All right.
Staff needs to
Anything
be
further?
directed to change the
Councillor-
policy, though.
Councillor Morrison and then Councillor Gunn.
We have to do a bit of reading before we go out to the public,
Yes.
because the definition of disabled is a very, very broad one and starts with breathing. It's not only physically apparent disabilities, but it's disabilities that are being dealt with by individuals, and neither the disability nor the dealing with it are apparent. So we have to read that. We have to read the act, etc. And I was at the meeting Deborah was at, and I attended 2 others. And before we go to the public, we have to know, we have to tell the public what disabilities are. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Wanda.
I would assume that the nominating committee is like any of our other committees, that it's not meeting at this time.
That's correct. That's
Thank
correct. Councillor Gunn.
Thank you. So with this, elections will be coming this fall, and chances we're going to have, some new councillors that may be well involved in that. We don't know, but I understand the motions of the administration sort of putting the wheels in motion for this to happen. But for actual councillors, this fall won't the group meet and decide who's going to be on what board, what organization, whatever. And when it gets into this mobility issue with our county buildings, did you say there's like 10 years yet before this has got to be in place? John?
Yeah, all the accessibility, all accessibility requirements will have to be in place, or there's I think a $250,000 fine.
Yeah, but that was by 2030, right?
I believe so, yes.
Yeah.
So we got 10 years in here. In 10 years, I'm going to suggest that quite likely Annapolis County will have a new building. My God, I pray to hell that we do. But, that will all come into play. By the time that building's designed by staff, or have a good play, those issues won't be. We'll have doors that'll open automatically, and bathrooms, as I've said before, will probably just go around the corner and you'll be in one, right? It'll be much like in an airport. That's the way the design buildings nowadays. So that'll all be taken care of, that accessible part, other than, in our parks and things like that. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Deputy Warden.
Well, in this, it says it must form an accessibility advisory committee and have an accessibility plan in place by April 1st, 2021.
Yes, that's right.
So what I'm suggesting is that to generate some interest in the community, it doesn't have to be committed to now, but if our recreation department knows some citizens that may be interested, doesn't mean that they're on the committee yet. They can work and they describe some of the process. A lot of these things can happen at the same time. The formalities can come into play and no final decisions can occur until those formalities are in place. But I don't see them changing this timeline. I see the requirement to have a plan by April 2021 will continue. And so I'm suggesting if you work at garnering some interest, work on the formalities all at the same time. You don't have to commit until it's ready, but then you can hit the ground running in a better fashion.
So could we have
Unless
a
you're
motion?
disabled and can't run.
I'm going to request a motion in that case at this point to refer this matter to both nominating committee and to the Department of Recreation. Moved by Councillor LeBlanc, seconded by Councillor McDonald. Discussion on the motion. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Carolyn
Opposed?
has,
Carolyn?
Are you going to refer to staff to make a policy change so that it can by the outline what this committee will look like?
So I'll add that to the motion.
and I'll second that.
All right, so let's expand the motion to include that as well, Carolyn.
Who were, who were in the second?
It was moved and seconded by Councillor LeBlanc and the Deputy Warden.
Refer to staff and to
Refer to,
refer to
so
staff to draft changes to the policy and to nominate.
that's correct.
Okay.
All right. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. Thanks very much. The next correspondence that we have is correspondence with relation to the railway, the train from Upper Clements Park. So we've had an expression of interest from the Railway Museum in Middleton. They're asking if we would consider donating one or more or several of the cars from that miniature railway to them, as they believe that they have some unique historical significance. Councillor Hemming. Hang on just 1 second, Councillor Hemming. Oh, can speak right into your phone if you could.
Okay.
There we go.
Yeah, okay. When I saw this, I really liked it. My question was, is there any expense that we're going to incur with moving the vehicles or these trains?
Okay, so could everyone hear what Councillor Hemming said?
Expense?
Councillor Hemming was saying it's quieter for some reason. I'm not sure why, but he was asking if there'd be any expense involved in the process of moving the trains. Is that correct, Councillor Hemming? Yes, that's it.
Yeah, there would be, but before we get too far ahead of ourselves on what's at Upper Clements Park, there's been many letters, people anticipating wanting to bid on and even purchase some of the rides and equipment. And we should take a procurement approach to this. I think this one here may be a donation, and it could very well go in that direction. I'm not saying it can't, but there would be a cost associated with it. Right now, we haven't had a chance to go in and determine how any of that would occur. And it's something that we'll have to discuss. And just frankly, I don't think we can make a decision today on that letter. I would like to say that we should handle in the procurement process on how we dispose of assets. And this can be considered as a part of that process.
I don't think we've even finished the process of compiling an inventory of what's exactly on site.
That's right.
Right, so there's a lot of work to be done before we can start to think about the disposition of these things. Councillor Gunn?
Thank you. What is our plan on how we're going to deal with the assets at the park?
That's why I was saying at the moment we don't even we don't have an inventory yet. So I think the first step is to figure out what's there, and then we figure out what's there. Then council will have to figure out what we choose to do with what's there. We can't have a plan until we know what we have.
And who will do that plan? That's what I'm asking. When will that plan take place and who will do it? Who's going to compile that list?
I'm hoping that we'll ultimately have recommendations from staff about what has value, what they think particularly could be sold, what could be restored, what would have value to be donated to various organizations.
We're going to leave that to staff.
Well, no, ultimately those would be council decisions. But I'm hoping that some of that background work and figuring out what could go where. That's legwork for staff.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Morrison.
Thank you. And I really agree that we do need the inventory. But when I read the letter, and I said to myself, we should really see, and I think part of our plan needs to be what it is the Nova Scotia Gordonston folks think is redeemable from the assets at that park. And I could very well see that locomotive and the cars just staying right there for, first of all, educational purposes. So I think Councillor Gunn was saying this, we need to move cautiously. Thank you.
And I've had people reach out on that same aspect. Companies from the States, companies from out of province, people wanting to see if they can obtain memorabilia. There's all kinds of requests. And we've told everybody at this time we haven't finalized the inventory or a process and how we would look at disposing of the assets if we deem appropriate to do so. So to me, it's following proper procurement, even on disposal. And you may see that it might be more valuable to sell something if we're not going to use it, or it may be more beneficial to the community to keep it on site in the long term. And those are the things that we have to go through. And anybody that's called, we told them, look, we haven't made any decisions as of yet, but we will certainly make the information available to you when the time comes. And we're going to try to deal with it fairly.
Deputy Warden?
And when I read it, I thought, you know, that would be a good thing to keep something like that in our county as a heritage project. And I mean, it's a non-for-profit organization. They work very hard up there. They have gone years and years and years of keeping the history alive of our trains. And it's something that I would seriously look at the time. And I think that it's not an unreasonable ask, and it would be, I would consider that at the time when the point comes that we decide what we're going to do. And the other thing is well, no, nobody's, I was going to say, what do you drove by there today? But I was down by a couple days ago, and some of the fencing is down out along the road.
It's very bad.
Yeah, like big spots. I just thought I'd tell you that.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Councillor Fowler?
He's muted.
I know, he's looking for the button.
You're doing good.
Well,
There we
sorry.
are. That's it. There we go.
Yeah. Yeah, I just wanted to say that I'd like to see Gordon put in a little bit of input into what should be happening to some of it maybe.
Okay, thank you. All right, so I think that
McDonald?
Councillor McDonald?
Yeah, being, I'm assuming, this is an assumption here that I'm the only career railroader in the group, but acquiring those things for a museum is very difficult. They just aren't laying around, right? And because this one is presumed, although I don't know the history of this certain number of locomotives, it's presumed to have come up from the South Shore to the Y at Middleton, and then run up to Port Wade potentially with the old CNR. That it would be nice to have it remain in the county and accessible, but I also understand what the CAO said, that, you know, gosh, we don't even know what all is here, let alone its value or its worth. So it's probably like 20 tons of raw steel, and that's worth quite a bit of scrap, I suppose. But I think it's worth more as heritage. And just so you know, those things come apart. All those things come apart and are able to be moved by truck. So they come right off the trucks, right off the wheels. They come apart in at least 3 big pieces, or hundreds and thousands of little pieces. But they all come apart, and we should keep that in our mind, that just because it's a big piece of metal or a big boxcar doesn't mean it has to stay there. It comes apart very easily. That's enough for now.
Thank you, Councillor McDonald. Well, I think that perhaps what we need here is a motion to send correspondence back, thank them for their request, inform them that we haven't completed the process of even compiling an inventory of what's on site or made any decisions about the disposition of any of the assets. That when such an inventory is prepared and once such decisions are being made, that we'll be happy to contact them and consider their request. But we're not guaranteeing anything for anyone at this point. We're not sure what we're doing.
We do have a list of everything, and actually we forwarded to our insurance company to put basically general liability on the property at this point in time. And so we do have a list of a lot of the equipment. Some equipment it's no good. It's past its life, so to speak, but there's a lot listed there, and we really have to examine the inventory as well. Right. And I'm glad what John said about understanding the train, and especially the large train. I often wondered if that did come apart, because it is a big unit and would require a significant crane to lift it. Right. And so it's in an area that I don't think interferes with anything. And it'd be nice to have it absolutely stay in the county And hopefully it can stay right there at Upper Clemens. If not, we would certainly want to try to keep it in the county.
And just, you know, that museum, it does have the infrastructure to accommodate things like that. It does have rails still in place, tracks still in place, the old main line or main track. Parts of it are still there in front of the building. And just so you know that the province of Nova Scotia is giving that train station to the society for $1 this year. I know quite a bit about it.
Excellent.
Can I request a motion to respond to this correspondence with an indication those decisions aren't being made yet? Moved by Councillor McDonald, seconded by Councillor Fowler. Discussion on the motion. All in favor of the motion? Oh, Councillor Gunn.
Oh, yeah. I'm all in favor for the letter. I just wanted to add something into about the park. Here's a longtime resident of Upper Clemens and a neighbor to the park. I really want to make a pitch that somehow out of this transfer of property, that property over there get cleaned up in spots and not just covered over. So just keeping that in mind, you know, the piles of refuse and stuff, it's got to go. Somehow it's got to be done in the transfer of the property. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, so it's been moved and seconded. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. Next, we have correspondence from TCTS, Trans-County Transportation Society, indicating that they have suspended their operations. We have a motion to receive that information. Moved by the Deputy Warden, seconded by Councillor Sheridan. Discussion on the motion. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. And next, we have correspondence from the Department of Transportation and Infrastructure renewal about additional funding available under the cost-sharing program for J-class roads.
Steve, do you want to speak to that?
I was wondering,
Sure.
Steve.
So I referred to this in the earlier item. This is in addition to the roads that have already been approved. But I think we're going to have the same challenge in terms of where our 50-50 funding is coming from. I had a discussion with Laura Cunningham about 10 days ago, requesting or just asking if an extension beyond the 17th could be entertained, and she indicated verbally it would be. So I've put that in an email just to give us an opportunity to have the discussion about where our 50% is coming from, because it does ask that the municipality know where their funding is coming from before we submit our roads. We may not be able to. So,
Steve,
yep.
Laura did respond today, just before dinner, and she's given an extension to April 24th.
Okay. All right. So,
which is not that far off, but
yeah. All right. Well, this is staff is working on this, but this is council receives it for information. We've had it moved to receive by Councillor Fowler. Did we have a seconder for that?
McNeil.
Councillor McNeil seconded. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. And we have correspondence which looks to be on the connected topic directly from the minister, which we could receive for information as well.
So moved.
Moved by Councillor McNeil, seconded by the Deputy Warden. Discussion on the motion. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. Folks, thank you very much. I know this is tricky to do. I appreciate all of your patience and your participation.
I'll get Elizabeth.
And I'm going to declare the meeting adjourned.